Live on a beautiful Friday afternoon in Northeast Ohio, Las Vegas, San Diego, Tennessee, or wherever the heck you are, it is time for Betting Weekly, The Edge, part of the Bet Rivers Network and the Betting Weekly Sports Network. We got you covered. In the middle box there is my longtime radio partner who copied color of shirts today, Dustin Fox. I don't know if it's the same color. I don't think it is.
I'm wearing like a dark gray black shirt.
Yeah, mine's more green. And there's Doug Kezirian, of course, professional handicapper, professional broadcaster. He's blue. Maybe he's sad. I don't know. Maybe he's just a Michigan fan. I have no idea, but he's here with us as well. Doug, how are you?
Well, it's supposed to be white, so maybe I can get some color correction. Either way, I'm fired up for the weekend. We have one full week and a game under our belt, so now we know everything about the NFL, right?
That's right.
Everything that's happened, we know. We can just project the rest of the season. We should be good.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up, Doug, because I think one of the biggest mistakes fans make and bettors make, and just anybody who's interested in football, is to overreact to game one. We spent 6 months in the offseason deciding we like this team, we like that team, we think this, we think that. And then 1 week, it all changes. It all changes. We disregard everything we've thought for 6 months based on one game, which is crazy. But it happens all the time.
And I think just recreational or novice bettors always need to remind ourselves to not fixate on what we last saw, right? And you're so right about week 1 to week 2. It's really all of September being kind of a fluidity to that sort of formulating judgments and just understanding it's a marathon. And the teams know this too. So are the Ravens and Bills going to be as fired up for their next game as they were Sunday Night Football, or the Ravens trying to get a little revenge from losing in last year's playoffs at Orchard Park? Probably not. But the question is, and that's baked into the line, the question is, can we adjust or find some opportunities in the prop market?
Dustin, as a former player, what was that like from week 1 to week 2, that high of week 1, and now we're in the crux of the season here?
Well, I mean, listen, it's interesting as a player because, you know, we're now talking about it from like a gambling side of things, a betting side of things, as opposed to as a player, like you're just trying to get the win. And we're so locked in as players to just getting through the week by week process, not worrying about like the Bills play the Jets this week. They had an emotional victory in week 1 against Baltimore, primetime game. And now everybody would think that, you know, going into this game against the Jets, there may be some sort of a letdown and what have you. And the Bills are favored by, I think, 6.5 is the latest number that I saw. Like, look, Buffalo is trying to get a win this week, whether it be by 1 point like it was last week, or by 13 points, like would make a lot of people happy, including myself, who like Buffalo this week. You know what I'm saying? So it's really a week to week thing, and in this league, a lot can change in a week. A lot can change in a week. And the one thing that I'd say too about this week's game is, if you're the Cleveland Browns, look out.
Yeah, we'll get into that because that's the first game on the docket today. Just a quick recap of last week. Both Doug and Dustin had terrible bad beats. Doug lost a Matthew Stafford under prop on his last pass of the game.
Milking clock.
Right, milking clock. That was it. I thought you had that in the bag. And Dustin lost a over rushing prop on Marion Hampton by a half a yard. So a couple of brutal losses there. I had a good first week. I went 4-2. We'll see if we can keep the good times rolling here in week 2. Dustin, you mentioned the Browns. Watch out. By the way, you don't think the players know what's going on? Myles Garrett was asked today, I don't know if you guys saw this, in his press conference. He goes, well, what do you think about the fact that you're 11.5-point underdogs in this game? And he when the reporter asked the question, he said, I think we're actually 12.5-point underdogs. So the players are paying attention. They know what's going on, guys. All three of us have at least one play in this game, the Browns and the Ravens. We all have at least one prop bet in this game. Dustin, you have 2 in this game, Cedric Tillman and Derrick Henry. So we'll start with you. Go ahead.
Well, do you want to know my thoughts about the game at all in general?
Sure,
or you
go
want
ahead.
Just the prop bets? Because, you know, this is a game where Baltimore last week probably should have won by 2 touchdowns against Buffalo on the road in a primetime matchup. To me, Baltimore, I mean, they did almost everything right in that game except close it out in the end. And obviously a Derrick Henry fumble late in the ball game gave Buffalo new hope. I love John Harbaugh, played for John Harbaugh, like the Harbaugh family a lot. Then that may upset some people who are, diehard Buckeyes who are watching, whatever. I like the Harbaugh family, but nonetheless, I thought a little bit gutless to not go for it on 4th and 2 in that game. To give the football back to Josh Allen was criminal. Yep. I agree with you, Doug, 100%. And so I think coaching cost him that ball game on Sunday night. And I think that they're going to come out this week against a Cleveland team that got really, really lucky to nearly win the game against a Bengals team. For whatever reason, the Browns just seem to have the number. I don't know if it's Myles Garrett just imposing his will upon Joe Burrow and Zach Taylor and that group, but whatever it is, it's a bit of kryptonite for Cincinnati, and Cincinnati was lucky to get the win. So I think Baltimore is going to roll this week. However, I do think the Browns will be able to put up some numbers, including my first prop bet, which is Cedric Tillman over 3.5 catches. Last week, Flacco, pull up my numbers here. Okay. Last week, Flacco threw the ball to Sampson like 8 times. He threw to Fannin 9 times. Tillman caught the touchdown pass. He was targeted 8 times last week. I mean, I think I'll pay a little extra juice on this for 3.5. I think Tillman's going to have it 4, 5, 6 catches in this game.
All right.
I think he's going to become a favorite target of Flacco on the outside. Obviously, Judy's a go-to guy, but Tillman with his big-bodied frame, I think he catches several. I think that goes over easy.
And then your other is Derrick Henry. Anytime touch.
Enough said, man. Like Derrick Henry. Who made the comments this week that Derrick Henry was easy to tackle or something along those lines?
Grant Delpit.
Grant Delpit.
No, he didn't say he was easy to tackle.
I know, but that's how we take it.
Oh,
sure. That's how the locker room in Baltimore takes it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was not smart. He's going to look to run over them, no doubt about it. Now, you mentioned Joe Flacco. Doug, last week, you had the over on Joe Flacco's passing yards. You hit that last week. You're going back to the well on this one as the former Raven goes back to play his former team.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be an X factor with what you just alluded to. And there's always going to be a variable. But Flacco's a pretty cool, calm, collected customer, right? Veteran. And that's why I like his passing yards. It's early in the season. His body's not breaking down. Quarterbacking, especially nowadays with the limited how many hits you can get on the quarterback, it's such a mental game. And that's why guys like that can play so late into their career. He just understands opposing defenses. Now, to Dustin's point, like Baltimore's awesome. They're the highest power rated team against the spread in the entire NFL. But games aren't played in a vacuum, and they're coming off an emotional game. I think they'd be up for this game and play really well if it was a better opponent. But I do think we could catch them sleepwalking a little bit just because the body is drained. So, yes, there's the narrative that they may want to get back out there and get the W and get after it. But as weird as this sounds, they were in the exact same situation last year. They lost a heartbreaker in the opener, hosted the Raiders, double-digit favorites, and everyone's like, they can't start 0-2. Well, they did. They lost at home to the Raiders, of all teams. I don't think the Browns are going to win, but I also don't think this is going to be a 45-3 game either. I think Flacco's going to move the ball. The defense is going to be flying around, but they're not emptying the gas tank. They know they're going to be there in the end. And this game, last week's loss isn't going to devastate their season and derail it like maybe college football in the AP poll era. So I think Flacco's going to get his. I think he's going to throw underneath. I think he's a very smart quarterback. I think there's going to be a lot of cheap yards here. I think he's going to be close to 300 basically every week where he's healthy.
Guys, I got to pick in this, and I tell people all the time, don't be prisoner of the moment, and yet I'm going to be a prisoner of the moment. Harold Fannin Jr., the late draft pick, the talk of Browns camp, has done nothing but impress since his days at Canton McKinley High School, Bowling Green University, and now for the Cleveland Browns. You saw in the first half last week that every time Joe Flacco was in trouble, you referenced this earlier, Dustin, that he would go to either Sampson or Fannin in this game. And then in the second half, they started targeting him. They were purposely running plays towards him. This team is all about the tight end. Kevin Stefanski loves to run 12 personnel. I mean, Fannin, if Fannin finished second in the team in receiving yards, I know this sounds crazy. I wouldn't be surprised if he finished second on this team in receiving yards behind Jerry Jeudy when it's all said and done, even ahead of David Njoku. In this game, I think for the Browns to have any chance, they're going to have to score. And I think they will be able to score enough. I think the Ravens will obviously score more. But I think, and plus, I think in the second half, the Ravens will have a lead. The Browns are going to have to throw the ball. And Fannin, I think, is a matchup nightmare for any team right now. Over 37.5 yards for Harold Fannin. All right, next game on the docket, the Seahawks and the Steelers. The Steelers looking for their second win. The Seahawks took an L last week. Jackson Smith-Njigba, the former Buckeye, one of the many Buckeye wide receivers, Dustin, that had a big game last week. You like a play with him today.
Yeah, over 5.5 receptions in this game. Obviously, I love Jackson Smith-Njigba since his days at Ohio State, and now he's in his third year. I think he's going to have a breakout season. I mean, we already know he's a really good player.
Yeah, but
I just feel like he in this matchup is going to exploit a little bit of a weakness in at times in that secondary. So over 5.5 receptions for me, it's a little extra juicy there at minus 143 on Bet Rivers. In terms of lay a little extra juice on it, I would do that. I think he's going to have a big game for them to. I mean, listen, I think it's going to be a tight ball game either way. I don't have a lean on the side, even though this is a game on the road. But yeah, over 5.5 receptions for me.
All right, well, let's get to the next game here because that's the only play we got on that one. We'll stay at the AFC North theme. The Jaguars and the Bengals. Doug, I know you didn't make a pick in this game, but what do you expect from the Bengals offense against Jacksonville? And I'm curious what you think of Travis Hunter heading into this game.
I guess he's going to play more defense. Shockingly, that's what he should be playing. I think the Bengals offense will look a little sharper and get back on track. They've always been slow starters, but you got to be careful. They've always been slow starters the first 2 weeks, not just the opener, and losing. I think 1-11 against the spread in the previous 6 years coming into last week. So 1-12, obviously. I also think we should pump the brakes a little bit on the Jaguars. Some of that point differential or whatnot, the convincing win is more on the Panthers stinking and Bryce Young stinking, as I told you on draft night. So I'd be careful here. I also think the verdict's still out. I mean, going from coordinator to head coach is a big step, especially for the first time. So Liam Cohen, all the praise, blah, blah, blah. But, let's break out Winston Wolf. Let's not start getting ahead of ourselves just yet. I think the verdict's still out. I think the Bengals are ready to pop. Right? The verdict, I think we know what the Bengals are and their best version of them. They could get right here, but they've been such slow starters. I can't get behind them. But I think you take that and apply it to the stats. Like, I'm not big on Trevor Lawrence right now. You just got to be careful on some of these.
Yeah, I'm with you. I do have one play in this game myself, and that's Joe Burrow rushing yards. Who the hell's betting on that? Well, I am.
Nobody. You're betting on that?
Over 6.5 rushing yards for Joe Burrow. He's done it 6 of the last 9 games he's played. He said, and that didn't happen against the Browns last week. That was a mess of a game. But he purposely made the point with his first healthy offseason. He said a number of times in the offseason he's got to use his legs more to help the team out in some situations. I think that it obviously went by the wayside last week. I think it happens this week. I'm giving him 15 yards rushing this week on 2 carries. Joe Burrow over 6.5 rushing yards. Dustin, you like Brian Thomas? Thomas Jr.
I do. I think this would have number would be higher had he had more production in week 1. So I'm actually kind of like buying a little bit low on this. I mean, like 66.5. I think it'll go over. think about last week's game, right? It was
Actually, it's 71.5. It's already.
Oh, got it. So it went up. That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
He's gonna have like 100 or 90. So how about that? And here's why. That game was so weird. It was lopsided. There was a delay in the ball game.
Mm-hmm.
There weren't a ton of opportunities for Trevor to drop back, and yet he still got a bunch of targets in week 1. So I like this to go over, even though the number I sent you was not exactly what we ended up getting. It's okay. It's all right.
All right, let's go to an NFC North battle between two teams that lost in week 1. The Bears blew a lead against Minnesota. The Lions just got boat raced in their first game. Doug, let's start with you here. You like Caleb Williams. Not a lot of love for Caleb Williams, but you got some today.
I mean, look, this is a straight narrative play, even though it's a short week. I have an idea. Ben Johnson went against this defense every day in practice. Now, I know things have changed with a new DC, but he should know certain things. And I think he's got Caleb Williams in a groove. There was a lot of pressure. I know it was at home, but it was Monday Night Football, blah, blah, blah. I think they can settle in. I do think the Lions, I know they've gotten some steam and the point spreads moved their direction, but I think they could be awful. Not maybe awful is a little bit strong of a word, but I don't think Jared Goff's that good at all. I've always been sort of a critic of his. There's a reason McVay got rid of him. And, I think they hit him a lot, Ben Johnson did. Now, he's capable of having really good games. Don't get me wrong. Like, his highs are pretty high. But from a consistency standpoint, so I think this is a low number for a quarterback who's can make all the throws. I do know that they're going to have some growing pains, but I don't care about turnovers. I don't care about 3 and outs. I just care about passing yards. And I think he can get them on this fast turf and against a defense that Ben Johnson should know how to scout.
Yeah, last week the Lions were good for me. I hit the under on Jahmyr Gibbs' total yards, and I hit the over on Sam Laporta's receiving yards. This week I'm going the opposite way on Jahmyr Gibbs. I like the over on his rushing yards. I actually think this is going to be a relatively high-scoring game. I like your play also, Doug, because I do think he's going to have a pretty good game. I think it's going to be a surprising high-scoring game. I don't know, maybe it's not surprising for everybody. But I think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to have a big game against the Bears this week. I got him for 100 yards on the ground, so I think he goes way over the 68.5. To me, he's one of the more underrated backs in the league. Not a great game week 1, but he has struggled against Green Bay. He's done great against everybody else, including the Bears. So, all right, next game, the Bills and the Jets. We talked about the Bills a little bit, their big comeback victory. I think the Jets played a lot better than people expected against Pittsburgh, especially on offense. But in the end, the Steelers won that game. Bills nearly a touchdown favorite on the road in this one. But you and I both like running backs in this game to have good days. Yours is the Jets' backup running back, Dustin.
Yeah, Braylon Allen, who I had a chance to see in college, had a pretty down week 1. The Jets' offense looked really good, obviously, in that bit of a shootout. But Allen only had 9 yards on 6 carries in week 1. So it gives me a little bit of a reason to get a lower number that would probably be a little bit higher. 19.5 is what we're looking at right now. I would say what's making me intrigued by this number is the fact that Ed Oliver's not going to be playing for Buffalo. PFF rated Ed Oliver as the top-rated interior lineman in week 1. And the Bills gave up how many yards in week 1? 1 million.
Yeah.
1 million yards on the ground. In fact, it was 169 yards to Derrick Henry alone. So I think this number will be exceeded in this ball game. Give me the over 19.5. Braylon Allen can go get you 20.
So I like Jared Cook in this game, and I'll tell you why. James Cook, not Jared Cook. He did not have a great game, at least rushing the ball last week. He had a lot of receiving yards. But here's the thing. I expect the Bills to have a good lead in this game. And when they do that, that's when they get Cook going. So I know the Jets were competitive last week, but I don't expect them to be as competitive this week. I know there's always a chance of a letdown, but I think they want to get James Cook going in this game, and I think they will. So I like the over on the 59.5 as they're running out the clock in the fourth quarter. All right, Doug. Patriots at Dolphins. You got another quarterback over here, and that's the second-year QB, Drake May.
That's the theme right here, right? Quarterbacks. And
Yep.
I know the Dolphins looked atrocious against the Colts, but just what we talked about at the beginning of the show, fellas, forget what you last saw. It's like the old, Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith just do that little thing. You press that pen button and you just blank on everything you just saw. Look, Miami's owned New England the last few years, head to head. The Dolphins always play well at home in September because of the humidity and the way the stadium is structured, so the sideline of the visiting team is in the heat, in the sun, and it's just total like home cooking, literally with the sun and the humidity. It's a tough ask. Drake May is not making second half adjustments according to the critics. It's a relatively low number, but remember, this is Vrabel's going to want to muck it up, lean on his defense. And I just have to think the offense for the fish, or the mammals, I should say, is going to look a little better, right? It's not going to be 3 and out. They're going to move the sticks, stuff like that. I just don't think May's going to have a lot of opportunity to carve up this team. And the Raiders hit him in the mouth last week, and I think Miami can do the same with the home opener. I just think we're going to sneak under. It's a high 180s, 190s kind of thing.
Folks, players who place a qualifying same-game parlay of at least $10 on eligible NFL or NCAA football games will receive one standard entry into the weekly Squares game at BetRivers. Winning standard Squares will be awarded a prize of a $20 bonus bet. See the app and website for more details. So the under – wait, you got the under, Doug?
Yeah, I want under Drake May. I think he's going to be in the high 100s.
My bad. I screwed up and wrote over on the rundown sheet. That's a bad job out of me. You got it right, and Alex got it right. Under 223.5 for Drake May. I'm not as high on Drake May as most people are, so I'm kind of with you on that. The game that I really like this week, in addition to the couple of prop bets I got, is this Denver-Indianapolis Colt game. And like you said, Doug, I don't believe what you saw last week. To me, the Colts are completely fraudulent. I don't buy what I saw last week. I don't believe in Daniel Jones. I think he stinks. I think they stink. I think last week was remember last year the Saints scored 90 points the first 2 weeks of the season, and then I don't think they scored 90 points the rest of the year after that. They were terrible. And I think the Colts, same thing here. I know the Broncos offense wasn't very good last week, but first of all, I think they're going to win the game outright. But 2 plays I love in this. Daniel Jones over 0.5 interceptions. Book it. Daniel Jones will throw an interception in this game.
Yeah, feeling himself a little bit.
That's right. He's definitely feeling himself after last week, and I think Denver's defense is one of the best in the league. And number 2, I hit on R.J. Harvey last week. I loved him coming into the season, way more than J.K. Dobbins. Harvey went way over his rushing total last week. He's going to do it again this week, 29.5. He's the best back in their backfield. He's way better than Dobbins. He's going over easy, at least 60 yards on the ground for R.J. Harvey, guys. All right.
No resistance.
No, I mean, I agree. I like you were dead on last week. I can't argue with you when you said R.J. Harvey. I'm like, man, I didn't expect him to have the game that he did. And when you get hot with these props, like you ride that horse, man. Like I'm all about that.
Doug, final thought.
I mean, look, if you're seeing the ball well, I don't want to get in front of your train. I just think there's giant adjustments. You guys talked about the Seattle-Pittsburgh game.
Yeah.
That was a big game for the Seahawks. They're big rival, right?
Yep.
And one of the better rivalries in the NFL nowadays, because we don't have great ones, but that one's a pretty heated one still within the division. Seahawks thinking they can get the division, all that, put a lot into it. They had the game won, didn't go for it, 4th and 1. And then Darnold gets bumped and with a guy wide open. So that game slipped through their fingers. Now they got to go face Pittsburgh. West Coast in that early time slot. Steelers, I mean, Rodgers looked clean. Maybe getting out of the New York media fishbowl is just what the doctor ordered. I think it's a tough ask. Frankly, I like the Steelers minus the 3. But I think it's a tough ask for the Seahawks, who I was on last week. I think they're a good team. Yeah. I just think it's a terrible spot. So I'm not a big believer in a lot of their props over. But if they're down big, they get a lot of underneath and garbage time. Yeah. So maybe JSN gets theirs. So in general, I just think you have to really handicap the situational spot. And then from there, focus on the matchup and the stats via the props. But I think handicapping the game is a large component of this.
By the way, the biggest game on Sunday is, of course, the team that I coach, the Rocky River Bandits. We are one victory away from clinching the top seed in the playoffs, and we're going to get it done this week. So bet the house on the Rocky River Bandits. I don't know what the odds are. We're probably a prohibitive favorite this week. I'll say minus 250, but that's why they pay me the big bucks to be the manager.
So not the Super Bowl rematch. That's the game everyone's circling.
Yeah, that'll be coming up in a few weeks. All right, guys. Thanks everybody for joining us. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thanks to Alex and Z for producing today. For Doug and Dustin, I'm Adam. We'll see you next Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 Pacific. Where else but right here? It's Betting Weekly The Edge, part of the Bet Rivers family. See you, everybody.